ship by building a community, building your own. Good morning, good Friday, Samir. Welcome as always, Nick. Thank you. Welcome, Madeline. Let me know where you're coming. Let me know if you're coming to training tomorrow. You can register. We'll pin it up here. Eventually, my guys will get it right here. We'll pin up my text number, which is 949-298-2905, and my email address. For any reason you want my book, I'll give it to you for free. Go ahead, text me 949-298-2905 or david@dmeltzer.com. It's not that hard. Register for free training. Register for free book. Doesn't matter. Just reach out. Let me help you. Look in here. My friend wrote a book, by the way, Stephen Hers, and I love it. Don't take yes for an answer. That's right. I said don't take yes for an answer. My life was almost ruined by everybody telling me yes, 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 until my wife and my best friend and my dad gave me a slap across the face and said, you're really not that good. And you quit buying things you don't need to impress people you don't like. Philippe, good to have you here. Everybody, it's Friday. It's time. Tomorrow's Friday. Today's Thursday. I'm a little ahead of myself. Let's jump on it. What do you think makes an effective leader? Values. Effective leader is a hypocrite and is taking inventory of their values and teaching their values so other people can make their own decisions based off of those values. My 4 values to be a leader are: 1, grateful, teach people to find the light, the love, and the lessons in everything they do. Forgiveness, which means they're going to be making mistakes. They're going to be living in the learning zone and not also attacking other people for making mistakes. Accountability, they are going to be in control of their own lives. They're going to ask themselves, what did I do to attract this to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? And then inspiration, effective communication, teaching them to be a leader by effectively communicating with that which we're connected to, the light, the love, and the lessons at all times and everything else. How well do they effectively communicate within your organization? That's what a leader does, is leads with values and is a hypocrite. When I say he's a hypocrite or she's a hypocrite, it's because they are changing every day, growing, expanding. And so they're teaching new things and telling people, guess what? I was wrong yesterday. I have a better idea today. And that's what me and my chief betterment officer, we do every morning. We're like, hey, we were wrong yesterday. Let's make this a little bit better. Why don't we do this? Why don't we change this? And it works. We're expanding, growing, accelerating. Where will the class be held? It's online and there's replays. So 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time every Friday. Come register. We'll send you the link. It's free. Just jump on. You can watch the replay if you can't make it as well. If you're in a different time zone, just go ahead and register so you get the link to the replay. We would love it. Thank you. Thank you. That's 949-298-2905 and david@dmeltzer.com. Like I said, reach out, register for free, get my books for free. Stephen Hers looks like he's here. My boy has a new book released yesterday. Don't take yes for an answer. It's an interesting concept, and I love the nuance and the duality. I'm going to put Stephen on here for a second. There he is. Good morning.
Dave, how are you?
You and I
Nice
get to
to see
meet
you.
I know, on every single format we get to meet. Well, congratulations. Great book launch yesterday. And
Thank you.
we were just talking about don't take yes for an answer. The nuance of quitting, right? There it is. Beautiful. I always say the nuance of quitting, that 99% of the people quit when they're 25% of the way there. Usually people focus in on the no's, right? They quit because of the no's. But I've been really thinking about your book and started it myself. And one thing that came to mind, I don't know if you thought about it, was that if everyone around you is conditioned to say yes and agree with you, that in essence, that can be a catalyst or a conduit for people quitting. Because there's no learning, no growing, no accelerating, no lessons. And then they think they know it all and get bored, et cetera, to do that. My boy Scott Kaplan's on here. Say hi to Scott Kaplan. Hi, Scott Kaplan.
Hi, Scott.
You got to buy this book, Scott Kaplan, because Scott Kaplan's the original Scott and BR in San Diego sports guy and a mentor of mine and a close friend. And anyway, he needs to read this book because everyone says yes to Scott because he's so charming and good looking. Anyway, tell me about this nuance of, can yes be like a no?
Yes, it can. Exactly for why you said, because what ends up happening is that you're in a room or a life of enablers and you're never getting any of that feedback. And to your exact point, if you don't change anything about your approach to something, then exactly your words, you're not learning. And if you're not learning, you're not progressing in whatever you're doing. You could think about it in golf, let's say, for example, because life doesn't have a scorecard like sports does. So if you went out and played golf and you kept shooting 110, but you thought the scorecard said 81, you'd think you were pretty good. And that's invariably what's happening in a lot of people's lives, that they're getting this fake scorecard. And instead of realizing they keep duck hooking the ball or losing 50 balls when they play and they stink and they're losing every match, they think they're winning every match. And so they never actually go and practice and go on the range and take lessons and figure out what it is to improve. But the truth of the matter is, to your exact point, Dave, if you stop getting yes and someone actually tells you, you know what, you stink at golf, you probably could be a lot better pretty quickly if you just knew what it is that you could fix. And that's the essence of what you're saying.
And then the other thing that I thought about when starting to read it was a word that came up yesterday and that can be replaced with pivot, which is permission. There's such hypersensitivity today. There's generational confusion from what society has accepted in the past. You and I are a little bit older, and several times I have some scars on my tongue because I didn't even realize what I was conditioned to say. Very simple, subtle, unintentional words that could hurt somebody's feelings. And as more celebrities, athletes, entertainers, more high-level executives are moving up and growing up, there's this lack of toughness of being able to share constructive criticism. And what came to mind as I was reading your book was permission. Where does permission, who needs to ask permission? Where does it fall into the context of, don't take yes for an answer? Where does the responsibility, accountability, or liability lie in a relationship, whether it's marriage, business, an agentry relationship? It seems like permission has to be now in the context of what it wasn't in the past when we were young, right? Your college football coach could grab your helmet, call you names, shake your helmet and cause brain damage and literally give you constructive criticism, and it was acceptable. But permission is a big thing. How do you fit permission into your don't take yes for an answer?
I try to flip the switch on that whole equation. I think you're right. Everything you say is true, but it's irrelevant, really.
Can you call my wife and tell her that?
I will. I'm happy to do that. If you call mine, I think we've.
Hey, I don't take yes for an answer. I give you permission to tell me when I'm lying. Please.
I love it. I love it. That's so great. But here's the thing, Dave. You're making a really great point from the perspective of this macro societal point, right? And I've said all along, my book's not going to solve that problem, and I'm not even trying to. What I'm trying to say to the individual is, you could be on the wrong end of this equation for your own life. So rather than, because that football coach can't grab you by the helmet and say, look, you got to do the play like this, because no one's going to grab you anymore, you got to grab yourself. Now it's harder in a way. Think about it. It's actually harder because you're not getting that tough love that might have propelled you to greatness in other areas in years past. So you, the reader of this book, you, the individual, you've got to demand that in your life, because otherwise you won't grow, to your exact point. And so I may have said this to you earlier, but I'll say it again. The book is called Don't Take Yes for an Answer, not Don't Give Yes for an Answer. This is not a book about how you, Dave Meltzer, can improve everyone else around you by giving them better feedback. Yeah, it's partly that. It's about you, Dave Meltzer, figuring out, what do I need to do better, and how can I stop taking yes? That's what it's about.
And it aligns with one of my favorite lessons that I teach, which is be more interested than interesting, right? If we can gear people to enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent pursuit of their potential, and we can use your book, as a catalyst to say, okay, look, a lot of people tell you yes because you deserve it, right? Tom Brady, you deserve a lot of yeses around you, right? You do a lot well, but it takes a Bill Belichick, right, to be more interested than interesting, to give you feedback. But moreover, you yourself have to ask for it, right, to not take the yes. So when someone, and I have an employee who's extremely critical and constructive. And, you know, you walk off the stage and the last thing I want to hear is how great the speech was. I want to hear literally, what can I do better? You know, what could I do better? I didn't like when you said this. You know, you ruined the moment because you made a joke. That was one of the things that hurt my feelings when I came off the stage one time. You know, I was, you know, emotional and moving, and then to project my own insecurity, I made a joke to diffuse it, and it hurt my feelings. I almost got angry at him, right, for telling me the truth. And to this day, I stopped doing that, and my speeches were better. When we're in that situation, how do we practice not taking yes as an answer?
I think that's really the million-dollar question. And I think, to be candid with you, we talked about this earlier about Seabiscuit. Why we both love that book is because you have to find the person in your life who can find a way to connect with you so that it's not painful, that it's not hurtful, and you're in the right framework to hear it in that moment. Like, you may come off the stage one day and be able to hear, you know what, that joke didn't work, and you're fine with it, and you can apply that in your life. And for whatever reason, another day you may wake up and you may be sensitive or something, and you may hear that, and it may not be constructive. It may just actually do nothing good for you. It may hurt your feelings, and you can't apply it in that moment. So I think you have to find that communication method for you that works, and the partner you have or a series of people in your life. So like this guy, for example, in your company who may be very critical, you could say to him, you know what, Joe, I know there's some things I could have done better, but right now I'm just not in the framework. I'm not in the frame of mind to hear that right this second, but I do want to hear it. I do want to hear it. Maybe in an email would be good. I'll read it later tonight. So, you know, like, think about it. You have to figure out what works for you, because again, that's the magic of Tom Smith and Seabiscuit. He figures out a way when to crack the whip, when not to, and how to really apply that. And look, life is not linear, as you know, and we're all human beings, and we're not robots. And so it's figuring out a way for us. How do we take that feedback the best? How do we give it? How do we interact with it? And I think it's complicated. I think it's some science, but a lot art.
Yeah, and emotion. And one of the things that hit me, because I surrounded myself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas. You know, I say for years, over a decade, people were just telling me yes, and I was believing my own BS. And, you know, it was very, very dangerous. But I think one of the things that really, when I was starting to read it, was I substituted the truth, you know, with self-sabotage. So this is where that imposter syndrome starts coming in, the self-sabotage, alcohol and drug use or abuse, you know, things that make you feel better about, because the truth vibrates the fastest. I kept thinking that when I'm looking at the book, like, this is, hey, what truly is, am I seeking the truth from people, and can I handle it? Because a lot of times we go ahead and we shield it with self-sabotage and these imposter syndromes and drugs and alcohol and these other things. What are some of the indicators that you are taking yes for an answer?
It's funny. I think that, can I just make a parenthetical statement first before I do that?
Just to explain to people what parenthetical means, because
I want to step back here for a second, because I've been doing this book tour now, you know, the run up to it, for about 4 months. And I have to say, you have been first or tied for first of all the people I've met through this process, in terms of your interest in me, your interest in the concepts, and frankly, just your generosity of spirit. And so I think that you seem to be attached to a very higher purpose in your life. And I just feel like if you're attached to a higher purpose, then everything else will fall in line, right? And I think that if you want to lose weight for shallow reasons, you're not going to be connected to a higher purpose. You know, I want to lose weight and be in shape because I have young children, and I want to be here for as long as possible. And I want to write this book because I hope that somebody who's, even one person who's watching this Instagram Live, will make a beneficial change to their life. And I think that if you do that in your life, which you seem to, you've actually been a role model to me, honestly, in the last few months of doing that. I've tried to emulate you in this way. I think if you're connected to that higher purpose, then the motivation comes, and you can't get stuck in a rut, so to speak. And I think if you get too focused on doing things for the wrong reasons, and we all do, my wife always jokes about me. I once said to her, external validation, and she'll always say, external validation. So if you get stuck on that external validation, then you're in the wrong spot. But in terms of, so that's the broad overview. So I think if you can connect yourself to the higher purpose, like a guy like you is doing, then you're not going to get stuck in those ruts. You're going to propel yourself further. But if you can't do that and you're not able to, in the moment, connect to that, I think you just have to be somewhat honest with yourself and say, and hopefully this is true of you, by the way, even you and me too, that we're all capable of more. We're all capable of doing more. And that's not to put pressure on you. If you're doing things for the right reason, then doing more feels like just honestly God's work. You're just so lucky to be able to do it. And I think that will motivate you to get out of that rut. And that's what this book is for. The book is for everybody who is either in a rut or has been in a rut or may get in a rut, and to just pop out of it with some actionable items. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think that's why we connect and resonate with each other so well, is just personal experience from being an agent in a media marketing, and then also just suffering from this, challenge for a long time and paying an extreme price in my life. That is why I just am so connected to the idea that more people, if they really think about, and I truly believe people love the concept of enjoying the consistent, everyday, persistent pursuit of your potential. You can't take yes for an answer if you're on the pursuit of your potential. You'll never know what your potential is if it's just yes, 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 yes. So I am so excited the book's finally out. I have watched your campaign over the last couple of months as well. And still, once again, every time I see you on whether it's Instagram or LinkedIn or the playbook, wherever we're meeting, someday we're going to get together in person and really sit down and you and I can have a one-on-one question and answer, and I can really learn the lessons that I want to learn about the no's that I need in my life. And I appreciate you writing the book, and I encourage everyone to go out, get that book. Don't take yes for an answer. Amazon, everywhere you want to buy a book, it's available. And he's a great author. You'll see it's easy to understand what these concepts are and very important in your life. Thank you so much, Stephen. Go take care of those kids.
Thank you. Can I close with one quick thought?
Yeah,
here?
sure.
I just want to thank you, because what you've taught me also is that when one person teaches, two people learn. And when I speak to you about my concepts, I learn more about them because of you. And that's powerful. And I also find our conversations, frankly, very therapeutic, because I love the way you bring these comments and these questions, and you bring these principles to a much higher place in life. It's not just about getting ahead in business. It's about really understanding the totality of life. So anytime you want to have a therapy session and talk about these concepts, count me in. And just, again, a very, very sincere thank you to you. You're a really tremendous person.
You're a mensch as well. Thank you, Stephen. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Don't take yes for an answer. Stephen Hers, you got to check it out. Released yesterday. Thank you, Kate. I see all your nice comments. And Dan, you guys are terrific. Thank you so, so much. Looking, just shifting gears as always, we are having another advocate on here. Is Molly in here looking? Should I pin up the Team David Meltzer? They want me to repin something here. Got that done. Is Molly here? If not, let me just answer a question while I look for her. They're piling up in there. So I'm here to help. What are some skills that millennials are lacking? So one of the dangers of classifying people of Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, or old, I fall into that group, is that everybody lacks the same skill, right? Everybody lacks the same skill. And that is one in which we are an ego-based consciousness. The only skill you truly have to have is the skill of figuring out what you want today according and aligned with your values and who has it, and then having the interest and the courage to ask that person for it, or ask that person how to get it. It's really not that hard. You cannot say, look, if you want to get the hyper skills, everybody, I'm sure, can improve the skills. If you're an engineer, you can improve your engineering skills. If you're a doctor, you can improve your surgical skills. It doesn't matter what Gen Z, Gen Y, millennial you are. I think everyone today can work on their telephone skills. I think everybody can improve those. I think that's an important skill. I think also their toughness skill. I think that because of the luxuries and ease of our instant gratification life and the spoiling of 13 years of economic growth and stability in America, especially, that we absolutely can work on toughness and telephone. And I'm going to do a training on that. This week, I'm doing my training on building a community. And I see Molly Rose Hayward in here, the great advocate for the power of women, my female quotient. Where is she? Come on, power of the internet. There she is.
Hello. Good
Hi,
morning.
Molly.
I'm
How
so
are you?
sorry. I lost the little thing that said join this, Instagram live. I was like, oh God,
I've been
how
there.
do I get in without that?
You know what's so funny is like I'm usually joining people on mine, and then I started to get invited to all these other people Instagrams, and I never realized I don't know how to join. I got on there.
I know.
I'm like
No
I'm
matter
calling
how
on the
much
other
I
phone.
do this, I never quite get it right.
Right. I'm calling the other phone. Jake, how do I do this? He goes, are you
I
kidding?
know.
You've been doing these every day. I was like,
I know.
that's so beautiful. Anyway,
Oh.
as a father, not just of three daughters, but of a young son, I used to make the mistake. I used to tell people, because I've had these extraordinary women on, executives, leaders, and thought leaders. You know, Mary Morrissey's one of my greatest mentors, and just beautiful spirits and athletes. And I always went to the whole go-to, like with Danica Pack, my three daughters look up to you. And it was almost like the Black Matters thing. It's like, hold on a second. I'm dismissing, the real concept here, right? I'm dismissing. I need to prioritize those that are underrepresented. I have to prioritize those that don't have equality in certain manners. But I have to do it under the context that I have a 10-year-old son and three daughters who I need to learn from you. And I wanted to have you on, as an empowerment person that has to teach us that these distinguishments that we need to prioritize. I'm the chancellor of Junior Achievement University. My biggest accomplishment is I was in Junior Achievement at 12 years old, 40 years ago. There was only one girl in my entire program. Now, today, over 100 million alumni in Junior Achievement worldwide. Over 50% of the women in Junior Achievement 50% of the kids are women. Yeah. That's a huge area for me, and I love it. And we can do that in every area of our lives: color, sex, gender, preference, whatever, height, which is one of my my diminished capacities.
Me too.
Very less on the priority side. So I don't want to hear a whole bunch of haters out there going, Dave, height's not really an issue. No, it's not. I'm just saying, you got to be careful nowadays, right? Anyway, during this time, there's a whole bunch of issues that really rose up that I had no idea about. And I was hoping that maybe you could educate us and then help us and inspire us on how we can be of service and of help.
Oh, I would love to. I'm so glad to be here.
Me too.
So
I was saying, sorry, I might have missed. In this period of time, what new issues have exposed themselves awareness-wise, and what can we do to help? Sorry.
Totally. No, so, God, it's such an interesting time. And I feel like, our company as far as kind of who I am, for those who don't know, I'm the founder of a company called Cora, and we make natural and organic women's wellness products. And really, the company was created, I guess we launched over 4 years ago now, because I was actually traveling in Kenya and met girls there who were staying home from school during their periods because they couldn't afford to buy sanitary pads. Super simple, basic need that wasn't being met. And yet there was kind of all of this other, like, really amazing investment being made to ensure these girls could go to school. And so it was sort of this one thing that was preventing them. And I thought, my God, like, this is something that's so personal to women. My first instinct was like, can I write a check to this organization that I'm here in Kenya with? They could use it to purchase pads for these girls every month, and the girls here in this village would have what they needed. And then, of course, my next thought was, well, there are probably millions of girls all over the world like these girls who face this issue every month. And there are probably millions of women like me all over the world who would have that same visceral, empathetic reaction and say, like, what can I do? Because number one, like, most women have had the experience of not having a tampon or a pad when they needed it. And like, you can't go through your day, you can't go, you know, do things out in the world. And, you know, I think the other pieces, like most of us know how critical girls' education and women's empowerment is to solving some of our biggest world problems. And so like, you know, it felt to me like there would be an understanding that this was a true need. And so I came back to the US and really decided to create a modern brand that represented the values of the modern woman in my eyes. So that was everything from healthier ingredients to great design to sustainability to giving back to those in need. And so fast forward 4 years, and you know, the company has you know, done really well, and I'm, you know, super grateful that the idea seems to have really landed with so many people. And you know, we've given about 10 million pads to girls in India and Kenya at this point. But thinking about what's going on now in our country, it's bringing up a whole host of things. Like when COVID hit, you know, we saw that panic buying happening, and there was actually a tampon shortage. And, you know, that was so interesting to us. And thankfully we were kind of in a position where we could, you know, we had the inventory to kind of meet that demand. But, you know, it was so interesting to see that kind of consumer dynamic happening. And then post-COVID, and now also in light of the Black Lives Movement, what we're realizing is that there is such a dire need here at home. And as a company, we're really shifting our giving philosophy to incorporate the United States. And it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, a country like ours would have the same type of need just in this area as, you know, a country like Kenya and a country like India, all, you know, amazing places. And, but it's been truly eye-opening. And I think, you know, that's the biggest shift for us, is realizing that there's actually a need here in the US that, you know, we can and want to support.
You know, what's interesting is I coach a lot of executives, entrepreneurs, athletes, entertainers, and the significant change, you know, my mission in life is to empower others to be happy. And there's a different vision that certain people have. And it's not to put a value on which one's more important, right? There's some people that want to walk and feed and feed people, or, you know, build community centers, or the water, or the healthcare. And it's a very apparent need. It's a very immediate and apparent need. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm the chairman of Unstoppable in Kenya and the Maasai, and we built 17 villages, but it's very apparent. All 5 of the sustainability items are on the surface: good food, good water, good education. Yeah. But I've tried to coach this idea that you have, Molly, that systemically, that we can have exponential community. And I'm doing a training this Friday about community on this point, that, for example, I started looking at with Jerome Bettis, who's an ex-football player. You know, these kids don't have laptops, and they're going to have to go back to school without going to school. And I started to trace what happens to a kid that wants to go to school, into, you know, some of these kids I asked, they want to be doctors, they want to be judges, they want to be these amazing people, right? Astronauts, whatever. And yet, what's going to happen if they don't have a laptop this year is they're going to drop out of school. Yeah. And then I take the statistics of what happens when they drop out of school, right? And it's millions, millions and millions of dollars. Exactly. Forget the other side that's obvious. I'm talking about our economy. And and this was the impetus for Unstoppable, when you take a young woman who used to be circumcised in the 8th grade, and all the things when I started getting involved to help, when you can put them back into school in the 8th grade, right? Totally. And as a father, I never thought, oh yeah, that's right. They won't go to school if they don't have this one little thing like a laptop, or like sanitary pad, or whatever. Yeah. You can change like the whole world. The whole world, if you think in this direction. Exactly. What in your life, you know, like I have this saying, be more interested than interesting, that's pushing me more and more to those things. Is there something that you learned previous in your career or life that lets you look just one layer deeper? Because it has such a huge impact if we can help people with that empowerment type of education, not just we need the immediate stuff, but it's
Totally.
the real change happens when we figure out what's causing the bigger systematic problem.
Totally. You know, I think kind of big picture for me was growing up, you know, without a lot. I actually grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Philadelphia. Um, and you know, we struggled quite a bit in some ways, and yet my parents always engendered this idea that there's always something you can be doing for someone else in the community. So, you know, like my mother would leave food out on our porch steps for, you know, a homeless man who would walk by every day, or we'd go out on a Saturday and paint over the graffiti on the street just to kind of, you know, make the neighborhood look better. And it was this idea that, you know, we weren't making huge charitable contributions, but we were out there trying to do what we could for our neighbors and for people in need. And so I grew up and I lived with that idea of no matter how little you might feel like you have in a moment, there's always something you can be offering, even if it's just a kind word or a smile or, you know, half of your sandwich. It's this idea that like there's I think there's a responsibility to give back where you can. And then I think as an adult, you know, interestingly, at least in my own work, and you talking about laptops kind of made me think about this with Cora. You know, we started, of course, as a products company, and we are a products company. But what I've realized over time is that products are like almost the gateway for us. It's like how we get into the lives of our community. And then from there, we can start to help to shift their mindset and their consciousness. Because what I actually am interested in is shifting women's consciousness about their bodies, helping to shift the consciousness of a girl in Kenya about her abilities or her body too. Like, you know, the simple thing of having sanitary pads during your period is like you feel, number one, you feel like you have some dignity, some agency, you know, the confidence to sit in the school classroom, you know, through that, you know, week of every month, and, you know, and not be sort of afraid or yeah, not be afraid or embarrassed. And so, you know, I think it's just this really interesting, you know, that's the sort of the thread for me, or like what drives me is like how can we what's the entry point, but then like what are the other, you know, elements at play that aren't, you know, as visible.
What a wonderful place to end too, because my whole career is built off of that exact concept, and we're in such diverse industries that I
Totally.
literally, it's called the bug light approach is what I call it, right? So you
Yeah.
have a different bug light than I do, but I've always used celebrities, athletes, and I always called myself a philanthropist. I pimped out more celebrities, athletes, and you know, those types of people to raise money for causes, right, that are farther down the line. And so that
Totally.
bug light approach creates a consciousness. And then even furthermore, you synergistically fit into my whole mission in life, which is to find 1,000 people like Molly Rose Hayward at Cora, who will empower 1,000 people to empower 1,000 people simply to be happy. Because in the end, when people are scared and embarrassed and separate and inferior or superior, this is what creates the interference or corrosion to a collective consciousness of abundance or happiness, which in India and in Africa, where I do a lot of work, it's needs to be a priority. It needs to take place. And there's mass people and mass energy that we can together, one person at a time, by doing what we do in the corporate world. Cora is a very successful company, a wellness company that addresses a lot of needs in our great society. But in the end, what is the main mission, right? It's just a bug light to change the world, to make it a better place. And that's what you're doing, Molly. And I really appreciate you coming on and helping so many
Thank
people.
you so much, David. Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm honored to be part of that wave of humans in your wake. So
you make me confident. You make me confident. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Molly. Check
Bye.
out Cora, Molly Rose Hayward, of course. You can check her out at Molly Rose Hayward. I keep seeing Scott Kaplan little comments on there. Man, I love that guy. It's so much fun for me in my career to I've accelerated, grown, to be a hypocrite, changed my values. But Scott and BR, favorite show ever. Ever. I'm sorry, ESPN. Sorry, even Sage Steele, who I adore and love, and she's amazing. But Scott and BR, I could for hours and hours. It was Howard Stern and Scott and VR. That's all I listened on the old school radio before XM even. And now there's podcasts and TV shows and everything. But Scott Kaplan is one talented, sharp, clever man, and I appreciate you. And he has a great company called Sided, which some of the biggest names in the country have invested in. It's an unbelievable way to personally interact. We'll talk about Sided too in community training on 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. My text number is kind of cut off on there, but it's 949-298-2905. David@dmeltzer.com. Free training, free books. Go ahead. Reach out to me. I'll send you my book. Not a problem. What is one lesson that keeps bringing you pain? The need to be offended. By far, that's a lesson that keeps bringing me pain. I fight it. All right. We're looking for one more guest. Let's answer a question and then bring on our boy, if he's here, Mike Martin, the Michigan Wolverine, and now the alumni head of Michigan and great financial genius. Schnips, what's going on? If I don't have money to start a business, what can I do? There's businesses to start. You can either find someone that has money, which is a great partner for you, or you can go be a financial planner. You can join WFG, Elevate. There's great companies out there that don't require any financial backing at all. It just takes grit and the enjoyment of the consistent, persistent. Go ahead, reach out to me, David@dmeltzer.com. I'll hook you up with some opportunities. Mike Martin, you're always looking so swollen, man. I think you're allergic to something. Your shoulders, your biceps are always so swollen.
It's just the water, man. I tell you, it's in the water.
Send me some. Look at these little pills.
I tell you what, man, this is the secret. It's just H2O.
Let me see one of those biceps. Let's just
easy
compare
as that.
right here on
Can it
video.
fit on the screen?
Look at that. 52 years of power. Division III power.
Hey, man, that's what they call old man strength. That's very dangerous.
You see, now there's a wise young man. Anybody have that old uncle that has old man strength? It's very dangerous. And then there's that toughness side that I keep teaching people. You don't want to mess with like 50, 60, 70-year-old toughness. You know, guys that have 7 days a week enjoyed the consistent, persistent pursuit of their potential. Anyway, oh man, we've been doing so much more together, introducing people, truly working what I teach, which is to be of service and of value, but also to ask for help. Both of us together as friends for a few years. We met, with Gary Vee, I think in Atlanta, but ever since then, been there to be of service. Being an ex-NFL guy, a Michigan Wolverine, which I will not hold against you. I'm trying my best. Where did the humility come from, right? I mean, you have risen to the peaks of your profession and have to transition out. The biggest downfall that I see in a lot of athletes, especially intelligent ones as well-schooled, they just lack the humility to understand they don't know what they don't know and ask for help. You're one of those guys from the first time I met you, have been so gracious and humble. I felt like we were old friends the first time when we met each other, and I would do anything for you, and vice versa. I would do anything for you also because I know you'll do anything for me.
That's a beautiful thing. And humility and being able to for me, it's like remembering where I came from. I'm from the city of Detroit. My mom's a nurse. There were times when I was a kid where we wouldn't see each other for 4 or 5 days, in high school, because she'd be at work on call, and my job was to go to school and to get an education and bust my butt in the classroom on the field. And that was that hard work mentality of, we didn't have a ton. I went to a private Catholic school where it was a lot of money. My mom had to mortgage the house, twice to figure it out, and credit card debt and all these things. And I was obviously eating her out of house and home as well at Sam's Club. So it was a lot going on, but I always felt during that time that we had all we needed to have, and we had each other. And being able to see my friends that had the nice cars and all these types of things, and I was driving the Crown Vic, the 96 Crown Vic with 200,000 miles on it that my grandpa gave me, it made me appreciate what I had and what I didn't have too. So when I was able to be in a position to have these types of things, I really appreciated it. And it just, it really just made me who I am. And then being able to give it to my mom and say, Mom, here's the new car, here's the credit card that we're going to take care of. And that type of stuff is like a beautiful thing. And then you can do that with others, with your energy and with your knowledge and all the different things that you talk about, and how to give back.
and looking at what you do, and you do good back in a very specific way, right? I've seen you. We were on the phone with another young NFL star yesterday together, and you were really not only teaching him financial literacy, financial competency, just value-based leadership, but you're bringing in all types of mentors like myself, literally just asking for a favor, saying, hey, can you get on the phone for 10 minutes to share some of the ideas so that the mindset and the heart set can be lined for sustainable growth, economic security, and emotional security. And, you have such a great quest for this knowledge and humility along with it. What were, though, because you are in the top of the transition people that I know, what were some of the challenges? Because I think it's important for people to know, here's a guy who went to Michigan, obviously has his values aligned, and yet I bet you there's some challenges in transitioning. So you can imagine guys that didn't have the support system that you had, maybe didn't go to, that great school that you went to, you can imagine the challenges that face them when they transition out. What were the biggest challenges when you transitioned from the NFL into the working world?
Yeah, and I'll be completely transparent. I had a plan, but it was still tough for me emotionally. I dealt with the depression, the what am I going to do next? Even though I knew what I was going to do, it was still, I had to take that step of like, okay, I'm now doing this. I have to put this in the past. I did this, but now this is my new platform. This is my new way to help people and my new way to connect with people. So I was, for 3-4 months in this thing where I was sleeping in. I didn't really, I was just playing a lot of golf, not doing anything productive. And then I was in this funk, and then I snapped out of it. I had a really good support system around me, but even people with the best plans and the best mentality and the best support system struggle too. So I just want to say that first, that even if you have the support system, you're going to struggle, and don't be ashamed of that. So once I went through that, I earned my MBA at the University of Miami. The NFL had a program that you're aware of, and you helped with Mike and his wife. And that really took me to the next step, being around guys like Takeo Spikes and Noshan Moreno, and being able to listen to these guys and how they transition, and saying, okay, I'm not in this alone. I've got a group of brothers, and I've got people around me that I can say, this is not going to be an impossible thing. I can do this. And then when I flipped into financial services, being an advisor, it was like being able to coach and mentor, but instead of football, using finance as the thing. And me growing up with little money and probably having as much as $1,000 in my savings account at any point in time, and then having a lot of money to deal with, I had to learn how to manage that and take ownership of it. So helping guys like Donovan, I want him to take ownership of his ability to create wealth for himself and his family. And then ultimately being able to give that and pour it into his community and help more people than just himself and his family. It's a beautiful thing.
It really is. And, for 20 years, I've been mentoring athletes, celebrities, entertainers who have to go through these transitions. And the first thing to identify is that it's like having your first death when you have to stop playing, whatever the sport is, especially football, because it's, guys who, play golf in college, you can always play golf, right? Even, baseball, they can play I play adult baseball still. I'm 52, right? But, I haven't put on a pair of pads since I graduated college at 22. And I know kids and I wasn't have any, aspirations or reality of going to the NFL, but it still was like a death for me. I smelled the cut grass in August, and I started to cry. But one of the things that I realized when I started to coach, it reminded me of Good Will Hunting, when finally Will breaks down, right? He's like, it's okay, right? I get choked up right now because I can't tell you how many times I've almost broken my back because big dudes like you, I literally have to sit down and let them process the fact. I'm like, it's okay. It's okay to be afraid. Like, it's okay. Like, and because you have been in control of something that you're one of the world's best at. Usually from, high school on, you have a pretty good idea. You have some serious talent. Usually from high school, unless you're, Antonio Gates, who thinks he's going to play basketball. Usually by sophomore, junior year, you got a good guide on the fact that I may have a shot at being good at this. And so now, to say, hey, how you've worked your whole life towards this? Now you have to start over, and you are the only one that knows the truth, that you don't have a clue. There's, people like me that every single day for 35 years, 7 days a week have been focused in on getting better at understanding how this all works, right? And I, just like you were very confident in your physical ability, right? I always got straight A's, right? I always got the same feedback that, hey, you're going to be good at this, right?
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. How do you help your associates in the financial services arena? Because it's the same thing. These guys have made money, right? And their biggest much as their and football. Football's gone. They still got the money. Now their greatest fear is, if that money goes, what am I going to do?
Yeah. So the thing that pops up in my head is not being a victim. You know, I'll show like my knee here. I had cartilage reconstruction on this knee, and I'm 29 years old, and I have doctors telling me I might have to get a knee replacement before age 35. This was what ultimately took me out of the game. I was with the Philadelphia Eagles. I was traded, and I'm out there with my boy Brandon Graham. Shout out to him. And this is the Super Bowl year. And I knew we had a special team immediately. I got in that locker room. I was at the Tennessee Titans for 4 years. We struggled. We had a lot of changeover. You know, Bud Adams, rest in peace, he passed away. There was ownership and coaches. And, you know, you can't be successful when you have so much change and turnover year after year. So I get to Philly, and I'm like, man, we have a special team. He goes out, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm feeling sorry for myself. And it's kind of with finances too. You know, you can spend and not take ownership of where the money's going, get, you know, your coffee and this and go out to dinner. And I show people, we go through cash flow analysis, and it's like, you can either be a victim of your spending, or you can take ownership of it and say, I'm going to pay attention to how I'm spending. I'm going to save this amount every single month. When I get paid, I'm going to automatically do this no matter what. And all those types of things, it allows you to be in control when you're in situations where you don't have control. So when I got hurt, I didn't have control of that. It was what it was. But I took ownership of my mindset moving forward, and it really gave me that control, which then allowed me to be able to leverage it and be successful moving forward.
Yeah, you've been a great guy to take control of your mindset and your heart set. Thinking of another Michigan guy, Funchess is probably the most controlled economic kid I've ever met. I told him,
he's good at saying no.
I told him, you remind me of my grandmother. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, you are like so set on how much money you'll spend, but two, you like to feed everybody. Like, he must have asked me like 8 times if he could make me food. And it was just, he's an amazing kid. To that end, best lesson, and we're going to do this again, Mike, because you're one of my favorite people. And but best lesson that you've learned through this journey of COVID, best lesson that you've learned.
You know, when preparation meets opportunity, beautiful things happen. And it's actually been exemplified, you know, even focus in more during this. And you talk about routine and controlling your schedule. If you do that and you prepare for every day and you take a look at what you've got going on, when you enter those situations and things change, because that's what happens in life, you're going to be able to handle that. You know, adversity, we're all dealing with adversity right now. The world's dealing with it. We're all dealing with these hardships. How do I do this? How do I do that? Everything's new. So just preparing and just taking ownership again of what do I have going? What can I control? And then whatever the day brings you, it's like nothing. It's like practice. You beat yourself up in practice. And when you get to the game, like we talked about in Irvine, the game's easy. So life is the game. Prepare for life and just, you know, go through your calendar, meditate, you know, talk with your loved ones, spend that important time, and then you can go out in life and be your best.
Oh, watching you, man, makes me think of Dennis Waitley, who said, I'm planting seeds under trees I'll never sit under. You are definitely a tree that will continue to grow and to provide other trees, and all those seeds keep on spreading. So I'm so grateful for you and everything that you're doing. I'm so proud of you as well. After today on my IG, I had 3 of you guys. So that means I got 997 more people to empower 1,000 to empower 1,000. Let's do this again, Mike. Take care. Look forward to talking to you.
Thanks, Dave. Take care, man.
Right on. Stay healthy. Take care of that swollen shoulders. That's terrible. Poor guy's swelling up. It's amazing. What a great guy, internally, externally. That's very, 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 very proud of him. Join him. If you need any advice, he's a great mentor, financial services guy, obviously taking care of the holistic approach of how to make money, help people, and have fun. I'm going to take one quick question, and then we are going to get prepared for tomorrow's training at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. you're going to text me at 949-298-2905 if you want to register for free training or get a free book, and david@deanmeltzer.com. What is your advice for young agents who are just starting out? I like that. There's only two things you need to be an agent. Write these down. And we're going to end on this. Number one, practice getting a client. Number two, practice keeping a client. If you can get a client and you can keep a client, you will be a successful agent. Those are the only two things. You don't got to go to law school, business school. You don't have to graduate college. But if you can get a client and keep a client, right? I used to use the old school analogy. If I can walk into a club and find the most beautiful, wonderful girl and get her to leave with me and stay with me, then I'll be a killer agent. And that's what you got to do to be a killer agent. Get a client, keep a client. Unbelievable, everyone. Ben, I see you there. Jakey Bakey, welcome. Brittany, Team Meltzer, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate everyone. Please join me tomorrow. Get your friends, family, associates. Free training tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Text me at 949-298-2905. Email me at david@dmeltzer.com. I'll give you my free book as well, and I will pay for shipping if you don't want the ebook or the audiobook. All right? Thank you, everyone. Most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Thank you.